A quick follow-up video today on my should I swap my Sensible Tiger 900 for my Dream Speed Triple video of last week. I figure I owe you this because over 1,000 of you voted in the poll and almost as many left very insightful and genuinely useful comments. You care, and that's nice. Thank you. Anyway, here are the results after just less than a week of voting. The poll is now closed, and you can see that the consensus is narrowly in favour of my hanging on to the Tiger. It was an anonymous vote, of course, but Nuno, the sales manager at Triumphalgarve, admitted to me that he voted for the Speed. I can't think why. Anyway, I have to say that I was surprised, pleasantly surprised by this, because it's almost exactly where I was when I made the original video last week, and where I still am today, having read all your comments. 50% of my brain knows that I really should keep the Tiger, but 48% of it really wants the Speed. And I was expecting you, as change-hungry content devourers, to egg me on to get the Speed. But no, you've been sensible and come down on the side of reason. Not exactly a crushing victory for the Tiger, but a victory nonetheless. A couple of you questioned the value of asking unknown people, you, to help me decide, and I do understand the skepticism. However, when you've got this many votes, almost 1,100 when I closed the poll, and hundreds of comments and opinions, it does begin to make more sense. With only a dozen votes from people I don't know, the result is erratic and easily skewed by a single outlier, meaningless. But once you reach, say, 1,000 plus votes, a stable pattern does emerge. The collective opinion becomes meaningful, even though each individual vote is binary. This, incidentally, is a fascinating concept. Well, I think it's fascinating concept in physics called emergence. In the same way single dumb ants group together to form an intelligent colony, the poll result becomes more than the sum of its parts. And if you thought that was boring, think yourselves lucky you don't come on group rides with me, because I bore my mates rigid with this stuff at the coffee breaks. Sean of NC750X fame will attest to that. Anyway, despite what a handful of naysayers thought, the exercise has been useful to me, so thanks again. Here's a summary of what you said in your comments. First of all, those of you who were in favour of my keeping the Tiger. Many of you, most in fact, emphasise the Tiger's versatility, its comfort and practicality. For example, AS Wales or Ace Wales 7739 calls it a proper do-it-all bike, while RMZ Rides says the Tiger is easily the best. Others like Pierre Laurence 6371 highlight how customization, like an exhaust or graphics, might refresh the Tiger's appeal. Comfort is a recurring theme too. Rafael Cordoba 13 says, think carefully about whether it's truly the bike you want to ride long term. And Graham VFR says, there's nothing exciting about being uncomfortable, referring to the Speed, of course. Touché. Before I continue, as you may have seen, temperatures here in southern Portugal have recently been hitting 35 degrees C on the coast, where Mrs. RM and I live, climbing to 45 plus inland, which has given me an ideal opportunity to test these new iceSkin base layers from ZEROFIT. They sent me a couple of shirts to try, long and short sleeved. The long sleeve is actually still in its wrapping, so I'll show you the short version that I've been using for the last week or so. What sets these new iceSkins apart, as far as I'm concerned, is the unique mesh back. The front uses an identical fabric to the coldskin that I reviewed a few weeks ago, link in the description to that, and then round the back there's this innovative new mesh for ultimate ventilation. It's designed to quickly let in air and absorb and disperse moisture from inside the garment, and it works really well. And I personally also find them more comfortable against the skin than the iceweave model that I also reviewed. There's no built-in protection, of course, it's a base layer, so you still have to wear a jacket on top. I use this Icon Mesh AF jacket, and I've also tried the iceSkin with the more commonly available Revit Eclipse vented jacket, and it really does work a treat. Now, I know what you're thinking, a £10 t-shirt suits me fine, and yes, that's what I used to think until I tried these ZEROFITs. They are pricey, but they do work, keeping you cool in the summer and warm in the winter. And if you use the code in the description, you'll get this extra cozy neck warmer worth £25 or €30 free with your order. Anyway, back to your comments. Advocates for the Speed Triple RS argue for the thrills and the living in the moment, YOLO or you only live once. For example, Ian Halliwell 8604 urges go for the excitement every time while you're still able. And Chris 911S, I wonder what he drives, shares a personal success story. I used to have a Tiger, now I have the 2025 Speed Triple RS. No regrets after more than 3,000 kilometers. The bike's performance and aesthetics are praised, with Leo Ostvin calling it great in looks and sound. However, others warn about the compromises that I would have to accept, like Woody Wood 3388, who found the Speedy cramped, and Jerry Ryan 2302, who cautions that it could well become a one-trick pony. A middle ground suggestion came from Dr. BNC or DRBNC. Wait for a lightly used 1200, then you might be able to keep the Tiger and add the 1200. That's not a bad idea. The only thing is the Portuguese used vehicle market is quite small. Not surprising, it's a small country, and prices tend to be very high, especially compared to countries like the UK where depreciation is huge. Ultimately, the comments underscore that the choice depends on my priorities, the Tiger's all-round capabilities or the Speed Triple's thrilling ride. As Peter GU9E put it, motorcycles are about emotion, not logic. But I think perhaps the comment that really nailed it for me came from Steve Urand. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing your name, Steve. Coming straight to the point, he says, "Get the speed and you'll be a lonely man." Now, that's a phrase that resonates, right? He goes on, "As you said, you use the Tiger to ride with your mates and take Mrs. RM out for rides. How can the speed possibly beat that? Get the speed, the game changes. She's not going to want to ride on the speed. Who would want to be on the back of that? You're somehow drawn by the shiny, fastest in this case, bike in the showroom. Every year it's the same thing, a shiny new toy to separate your hard-earned cash from your wallet. And the shiny new toys keep winning and winning over and over again, and you still remain drawn to them and are inevitably unhappy." Can't argue with that, Steve, and indeed I'm not going to. Thanks for your comment. So the Tiger it is. I'm sure there'll be remarks about how I was intending keeping the Tiger all along, or that I somehow rigged the pole. But hey, we can't be responsible for what others think, can we? All I know is that I've found all of your input insightful and useful, and I'm grateful to you for helping. Thank you. I think we can all kind of agree that the only satisfactory way out of the dilemma would be to have both. And if I could afford two expensive bikes, the Tiger Speed combo would be absolutely perfect. The do-it-all Tiger for touring with Mrs. RM and riding with my mates in the hills, and the Speed Twin for when I fancy a scratch on my own. But as I said, I don't have that kind of money available at the moment, so it's just not an option. Maybe one day. There is a second compromise solution, sort of, and it's one a handful of you suggested. Rent a Speed Triple for a few days, or even better, ask triumphalgarve to lend me their demonstrator for a long weekend. Nuno, if you're listening. And of course, if I do, I'll be sure to film my experiences and let you know how I get on. In the meantime, as always, thanks for watching.